Alright, so let's go ahead and put the roughness on the front of this, and we'll take a look at what it looks like in Inkscape, right? So to get a separate material on the edge, on the cut edge of this, what you're going to do is if it's a edit in place model, you need to go into that edit in place family to get to the surface. If it's not an edit in place, you should be able to get to the face, but I need to pick this and go to edit in place, and then I need to go to the paint. Again, the paint is kind of a backup. Don't use this in place of creating a material like I did and applying it using a material parameter, but I'm just going to go to the paint here, and I'm going to pick my marble rough, and you'll notice that it will want to pick the faces. So if I pick the face of this guy, it will paint that marble rough on it, right? And so I'm going to click done there now that I've done, and I'll finish the model, and I'll kind of come in and you can see how it's placing that roughness. It's probably a little big right now, so the easiest way to see this eventually is in Inkscape. So I'll go ahead and start Inkscape now. Let me close my hidden windows, and I'll go to Inkscape and start that guy up. Actually, I think it's already open, so that would be great. Let's go here, and let me go ahead and let's close that and restart it so it will open on this file. Alright, so I have Inkscape open now, and one thing you're just going to notice that things are a little different, obviously, between Inkscape and Revit, so don't always think that things are going to look exactly the same. They're going to be a little different. So what I want to do now is I actually want to go in and use the bump map that I have here, this roughness map that I placed in Revit, and change it into a displacement map in Inkscape, which Inkscape allows us to do. And there's an Inkscape material editor. So if I click on that material editor, it will show me the materials that I can adjust, and one of them is my marble rough. And if I click on that, it will bring up the marble rough, and you'll see the height map is set to that bump map, and it will automatically translate it, and I can actually go and change that to a displacement map, right? And if I zoom in, you can start to see it. If I start pushing it out and in, it's going in, and now it's going kind of out, right? So you can start to see it start to mess with the roughness of that guy. Now the other thing that I can do once I have this guy kind of working is, let's zoom out a little bit, is I can come in and start to, let me see if I can get the sun to be a little less. There we go. So you can see it a little better now that the sun, so you can see it starting to make the roughness. But what I can do, and I would recommend, I mean, you could change it here, the scale of it, but I would recommend going back to Revit. So I'll close this guy and I'll go back to the Revit window and type MT and kind of get that marble rough up, right? And so I'm using the roughness map here and the marble color here, but if I click on this roughness map, right, it's 2 foot by 2 foot. Maybe I want it to be bigger, like rougher, so I could come in and start to change the size of this to like 4 feet, right, by 4 feet. And then if I hit apply, you'll see it start to change kind of the roughness of that guy. So now if I click OK and I go back to my Inkscape material editor, I can then start to sort of play with it a little bit more, right? Like if I start pushing on that in or out, right, you can kind of start to play with the roughness of that guy, right, and getting it a little different. So oops, let's see if we can get it to go. That's only going in, which is a little strange. I would like it to go out. And really what it's doing is it's just taking the dark, pulling it back, right? So you can kind of go in and, woo, it'll go a little crazy, but just get it you can adjust it individually to where you're starting to get that roughness, right? And then you can also play with the color. Like right now for me, the color for the blue is a little much, and maybe the roughness one is not as dark as I would like it to be. So if I go back in, again, you kind of have to play with these. So if I go to my material and I go to the marble rough, and maybe I get rid of the image fade, right, and apply that, it starts to get a little bluer. I don't know if that's too blue, right? And maybe a little smaller, right? So you kind of have to keep track of like how big you're making these things. Like this one should be 1 foot, right? And then apply, and now it's getting smaller, right? Still, I feel like it should be a little less obvious. It should be a little whiter, right? And then maybe the marble blue is a little bit blue. I've got this sort of blue background on it, so maybe if I did that, hit apply, right? That's a little better. So you're starting to kind of get there, right? Just go in and kind of play around with, how things might or might not look better, okay? Until you kind of start to get what you want, right? Okay. So we'll stop there for this one, and then the next one we'll come back and make the transparency map.